also the author of a new book, Saving Democratic Foreign Policy. How real do you believe that the threat is that's coming in this morning, or is this just more bluster from Iran?
Yeah, Ariel, it's great to be with you. And look, let's be clear. Hezbollah has been firing rockets into northern Israel for a number of weeks, including during the negotiations between, and let's say this clearly, the government of Israel and the government of Lebanon. And the government of Lebanon has asked and tried and pushed and pressed and begged Hezbollah to not engage in this kind of military activity. But Hezbollah doesn't want to listen to the government in Lebanon, and that's why we're in the situation we're in. Now, the Israelis have pushed in very deep into Lebanon. As David points out, the most significant incursion since 2000 when Israel unilaterally left Lebanon. But this is on Hezbollah. They jumped in when they didn't need to in this war in early March, and they're continuing to bomb. And I think for the Israelis, they view that as a grave security threat to the north of Israel. And so the diplomatic quagmire that we're in right now, though, from the U.S. perspective, is real. We are trying to untangle these different, disparate issues. And I think President Trump, he needs to get his team to get a clear framework of negotiations in place ASAP to deal with all of these issues. But right now, we're in the dithering moment where there's really no certainty. So all of these issues seem to be collapsing simultaneously.
Joel, to your earlier point, Israeli and Lebanese officials were just in Washington on Friday at the Pentagon for U.S. brokered talks. The president has said in the past that Netanyahu will do whatever he says. But today, Netanyahu said Hezbollah is on the run. We are determined to restore security to the residents of the north, as we did for the residents of the south. You alluded to this. Do you see a point where President Trump tells Israel's leader to stop?
I think he always holds that in reserve, and certainly he could in this case. But, quite frankly, the Israelis are responding to attacks coming into them in real time. And so it makes it harder for the president to say stop and don't invade and don't bomb. But these talks between Israel and Lebanon, they matter. If there can be an agreement, government to government level, between the two sides or some progress made, that will only give Prime Minister Netanyahu more space to figure out how he wants to deal with Hezbollah. But I do think President Trump, he does have the ability to turn it off. And clearly right now, he just doesn't see there being a need to do so.
What leverage does the president still have over Tehran to force a deal that's actually favorable to the U.S. interests, especially when it comes to the nuclear program? Do we still have levers?
Linda, first of all, Ariel, I have to say the irony or even the hypocrisy here, quite frankly, of President Trump complaining about his negotiations. He was vociferously hostile to the Obama nuclear deal negotiations and consistently sought to undermine it. So he really doesn't have standing here. But when it comes to leverage, look, there was leverage created during the military campaign that is now a unilateral ceasefire. Of course, Iran and the U.S. still engaging in some level of hostile action. But so now that lever is kind of gone. And the leverage that we have overall is our strong sanctions program. And that's what the Iranians want to see unwound. And so the question is how to get into a negotiation where there can be real targets for performance to prevent Iran from ever having a nuclear program, a nuclear weapon, and the contours of that, as well as these other issues, and then respond in kind with some type of sanctions relief. And I think that's where the leverage is. The president seems nervous about offering that up and trading that because he knows that essentially reflects the Obama nuclear deal, which he's haunted by the ghost of that deal. Let's be blunt. He's afraid of having a deal that looks just like what he threw out in 2018. But the problem here is that he created new leverage with the military action, with the war, and then he squandered it. So now we're stuck in this dynamic where the leverage is back to what we had a decade ago. And I really think it's really embarrassing to complain about people criticizing his efforts when he was the leading critical voice of the Obama deal a decade ago.
David Rohde and Zaman Rashid, thank you both for your reporting. And Joel Rubin, thanks as always for your analysis. Appreciate it.